I'm going to talk quickly about Star Wars
Okay.
because I've been writing so much about it recently. It's basically all I can think of. Um,
Your enormous blog post, which is available now at
yes.
cityrambles.blogspot.com. There, got your plug in before you could.
Yeah. You're part of the machine now, my friend. Next, you'll be saying the email address 3 times an episode. But yeah, so for those of you who haven't seen, I've been starting a written Star Wars ranked retrospective on the blog. Now to be in 4 parts, possibly 5.
And
We'll
where can they
see.
find it, Nick?
You just told them, Andy. What am I going to do? Repeat the address within a minute of myself? Nah, I don't do that.
Never.
Never at all. But yeah, we're having an interesting discussion before we started recording. I thought we'd have now because on the blog I've wrote. This is a mild spoiler if you if you care about the ranking of it. But I've placed Phantom Menace as my least favorite Star Wars film, and Rise of Skywalker as the next worst.
Yeah.
But thinking back on it, because Phantom Menace, I basically feel no hate towards it or like I basically have a neutral opinion on it. It's
Yeah.
fine. It doesn't excite me. It doesn't really piss me off. It's just sort of there. But Rise of Skywalker, while I find is in some ways is a more enjoyable, more impactful experience, I think it's more damaging than Phantom Menace. So the question is, which one is truly the worst of the two Star Wars films?
I think it's got to be Rise of Skywalker, surely, because as terrible as Phantom and Clone Wars are, they're still made with passion. I think like George Lucas still loved the
Yeah,
universe and everything and the characters, and wanted to make something that everyone would love
yeah.
and sell toys.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons I'm normally quite generous towards like the prequel trilogy, especially like Attack of the Clones, which I rated as higher than Rise of Skywalker, even though they're probably on at least equal footing quality wise. But because Attack of the Clones was sort of passionate and came from a place of wanting to tell a story,
Yeah.
while Rise of Skywalker was very much a corporate creation.
Yeah, that is the thing, isn't it? Like, I feel at least as bad as they are, they're still like lovably bad. Like look at all the prequel memes. Like they are so bad they're fun and enjoyable. Like they're fun to take the piss out of. Whereas Rise of Skywalker is just a steaming pile that everyone's already forgotten about.
It ties into an interesting point in general, though, about sort of bad films versus good films. Because I mean, there are films that are terribly made, but still enjoy you enough as a film, as a piece of entertainment.
Yeah.
So, how bad can those films really be if they're entertaining?
Well, that's why everyone loves The Room, isn't it?
Well, I mean, like, so for example, like Rise of Skywalker, like it was a terrible film, really, and like the moment I got out of the cinema, it just sort of decayed instantly. But in the cinema, watching it, it was big, exciting, big screen entertainment. I was excited, I was enthralled, I was along the ride, even though I was sort of questioning why it was doing all this stuff. But
Yeah.
it's like, no one's trying to pretend that Star Wars is high art. So the argument is, if the fact that it entertains you while it's playing, is that not enough? Does that really make it? Is it really a terrible film if it still does its main mission statement?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess you're right. It sort of served its purpose, didn't it?
Well, I mean, I don't know. This is all the thing I've been trying to think about.
It's interesting because I mean, Rise of Skywalker isn't good though, is it? Like, just
No,
objectively, no one really likes it.
well, because this is what I mean. Like, I don't. Rise of Skywalker pisses me off, but I don't. I feel like I can't give it like a negative rating because it's still, it was an enjoyable blockbuster, and that's sort of what it was trying
Yeah,
to do. Unlike, say, if we talk about something like Red Sparrow. I don't. Have you seen Red Sparrow?
I have not seen it. I couldn't be
Okay,
bothered with that film. From what I heard,
and
it
it's
was
not a good
like,
film.
yeah, that was the
Yeah,
phase where everyone was dribbling at the mouth for Jennifer Lawrence.
and that's pretty much how the film plays out. It's very creepy in its way because I mean it's basically about her being a Russian spy, but not in the sort of traditional James Bond sense, and essentially has sex with important people to get information out of them sense. And there's
Yeah,
something very creepily objectifying about it. But like, so compared to Rise of Skywalker, this is a strange comparison. But my point is,
yeah,
I rated Red Sparrow lower because not only was it like a lot of things wrong with it, but also I just wasn't engaged. I got bored with it, which I think is a bigger metric for being a bad film ultimately. While
yeah.
Rise of Skywalker was terrible, but it didn't bore me.
But you never turned it off. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the interesting debate here. Because I think ultimately, with all the film, no matter if it's like absolutely high art or just low budget slog, the worst thing you can be is boring. Because with high art, you can have the best,
That's true.
because you can have the best, most insightful message you can. But if no one's paying attention, then you've lost it. It's the balance. You've got to have stuff that's actually engaging. So I feel
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It's an interesting debate, and I'm not quite sure where I sit on it. But I do think, in a way, being not boring is the ultimate like main point any film can score.
Yeah. No, definite. Yeah, you're probably right. A film, but that's the thing, isn't it? Like, the worst thing a film can be is, a 5 out of 10. The worst thing it can be is completely average, like forgettable. Because,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, because if it's better than that, obviously, it's good and it's an enjoyable film. But if it's worse than that, there's still more to talk about. It being exactly down the middle, it's just like, whatever, let's move on.
Yeah, being bland is the worst. Yeah,
Yeah, being bland is much worse than being bad.
yeah.
I mean, say what you want about Cats, it's still, one of the most memorable films I've ever seen because it was so insanely bad.
Exactly, and like the Searchers, which we both hate.
Yes.
I know a lot of
Yeah.
people love it for some reason, but I never stop thinking about that film because it's so terrible in so many ways, and I can't stop thinking about it.
God, so when we learned about that film at A level, our teacher told us that, is it John Ford who directed that?
Yeah,
Yeah, John Ford was like, it's a deconstruction of the racist issues at the time. And then we went on to study that in university, and we read a load of interviews with John Ford and everything. And it's not a deconstruction of racist issues at the time. John Ford is just a racist. And it's just like, this is why is this such a revered film when it's just a racist man makes a film about a racist man. It's
Yeah.
like, what?
Also, like, so whenever I see discussions about The Surgeon, it turns up in, like, Sight and Sound's top films of all time poll a lot, normally really high. And all I ever hear about is, like, oh, that shot where John Wayne's in the doorway is, like, the best shot in cinema. No, it isn't.
It's not. It's rubbish.
But that's such a film studenty thing to say as well. It's like, oh, but he's framed within the doorway. It's a frame within a frame, and it shows how he's on the outside. And like, yeah, that's not a new thing. That's a pretty standard framing technique. It's everywhere. And like, okay, what if it's the first? It isn't, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's just not a very strong shot. It's quite a generic shot, really. And even if it was this amazing shot, it's still one shot out of a 2-hour film that's really boring, full of unlikable characters, full of racism.
Yeah, not a single. That's another thing. Like, not a single one of the characters is likable.
No.
And it's like the person you're supposed to identify with, who's Marty, who's like the 1/16th Cherokee Indian man, and he's like supposed to be the one you're supposed to identify with because everyone's really racist to him because his granddad was a Native American or whatever. It's like, even he's an asshole though. It's like, he's the one glimmer of hope and he's just a twat.